Hello, I'm
Hi,
BC
Barbara.
Kagan, and this is Taking Tea with Monsters, which is a podcast project that I'm doing with Arthur Johnson, who is a drummer in a couple of bands I'm not going to name right now because it's way too confusing, but that'll come up later. And the man behind the curtain, who really apparently now does not want to be named. He who shall not be named by his own choice. Sorry, choice. Unlike Voldemort, did Voldemort not want to be named? Or was that everybody
No,
else's decision?
everybody else decided not to name him.
Yeah.
Although, yeah, because never mind. We don't need to go into the lore of Harry Potter. So, yeah.
But we could. Yeah, I don't want to, but actually it showed up on my, sometimes I fall asleep and yeah, Sorcerer's Stone was um, on my television last night. And yeah, I'm just going to start this off by hurting people's feelings. I still don't like it.
Okay, good.
Oh, oh,
Let's
like the
get
book.
those shock jock opinions out of the way right off.
Um, so the idea of taking tea with monsters um, comes from a series of stories that I put together that are about my photographing bands. Um, but the podcast, which has just barely kind of started, has already expanded out from that. And so there are stories that are pertaining to my photography career, but now it's some of the things are actually things that happened with famous people I encountered before I became a photographer. And some of them are now about people that I've photographed that weren't actually in bands. And today I'm going to tell Arthur a story that he's been just dying to hear. I should say that the concept of these or our format is that I am telling Arthur stories that he has not heard before. You're hearing them along with him. So he has kind of like a very, very basic, not even outline, just a hint about what the story is. And this story is actually about an actor. And yeah, just keep an open mind. I'm telling you the truth as I know it. um, and yeah, so Arthur, I thought it would be great. I was going to look it up, but I know how you like to look things up. So as I'm starting to talk, I thought that maybe you could, if you would for me, look up when the movie Stripes was released.
I think that was 1980, but I will look it up right now.
Wow, really that early?
Or
So
81.
yeah, this is a story about
81.
81. Yep, that makes more sense.
Mhm.
About Bill Murray. And um, Bill Murray was on a press junket, I think that's what they were called, or still called, for Stripes. And he came with a bunch of promotional people. Do you still have the page up, Arthur? Do you know who put the movie out? What is it?
You mean the
Paramount
studio?
or yeah, studio. That's what they call them.
It I want to wonder if it was Universal because they did a lot of the SNL stuff at the beginning, like Blues Brothers. I'm not sure if I'm gonna. Oh, Columbia actually, Columbia Pictures.
Yeah, yep. So he came with a bunch of movie people from Columbia, obviously, and they put him up in a little suite at the Ritz Carlton, which is in Boston. It's along Arlington Street, which is right across from the public gardens, which is where the swan boats are and the
Mm-hmm.
swans. Are they
Mm-hmm.
swans? They're
It's
geese.
it's singular. It's singular though.
What is?
Public garden.
It's a public garden. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a Bostonian, so I can call it anything, Arthur.
It's the zeal of the converted. Once I moved to Boston, I tried to get everything right.
Yeah, and rightfully so. So it is actually important where the Ritz Carlton is located for the full impact of the story. So at that time, again, you could Google this. I don't know if you'd find it. Boston had a late night show where where celebrities would come on doing these kind of promotional things, like, I guess like Conan and any other thing, but this was a Boston thing, and it happened late at night. I don't know when it aired, but
So it
it
was a
did.
talk show, or is it
Yes.
more like a film? Oh, okay.
No, talk show.
Hmm.
And like, I don't know, probably called like Boston at Night or Nighttime Boston or something
Ooh, that
like
would get me watching Boston at night.
that. So he had been booked for an appearance for that. Therefore, he was set up with a bunch of interviews kind of late in the evening with journalists. I have mentioned before the magazine Sweet Potato, which was out of Portland, Maine. It seems like, kind of a ragtag, rinky dink, small town. Let me say some other things that don't sound
Yeah.
flattering, but actually they were, for me, they were great. And I think they had some money behind them. So I really, as a photographer, I had some great opportunities through them. I had spent an afternoon with David Byrne in Hampton Beach through Sweet Potato. So yeah, they weren't, for me, it was a real, you know, I would get real gigs with them. And so they set me up, and who went on this interview was a writer and me and the publisher, because he was so excited. I mean, they were all like,
Sure.
googly crazy about, oh my God, it's Bill Murray. And I had never really felt that way about Bill Murray. I'm not a Saturday Night Live person. I mean, obviously my taste in things has already been exposed to be horrendous because I don't like the Harry Potter movies. But um uh yeah, I'm not I think I have a problem when things are directed at a market that I'm supposed to be included in. So the humor of SNL was supposed to be directed to someone like me. And I think I didn't like that because, you know, I never drank a lot or took a lot of drugs. So that being, my being characterized like that. Anyway, so they were all crazy for Bill Murray. And I'm going to say, I could be wrong, but I would think that his fan base, at least at that point, was probably more male than female. Also with me was Barry Hall, who had at one point been my intern, but then we started to live together. And then we got married, but I don't think when this story happened, I don't think we were married, but it doesn't matter. We lived together. And I'm pointing these things out because I just want people to know that I have proof that this whole story happened. There are witnesses. And so we go to the interview and we're sitting the suite at the Ritz was very nice, but very small. And I remember sitting on like some kind of sofa bed kind of thing, and he was in a little armchair, and the writer and the publisher were there, and the movie people are kind of hovering around in the background. And he started talking to us. Apparently there'd been a screening of Stripes that the writer and the publisher had gone to, but I had not been invited to that. And this is when Bill Murray made his first points with me, because while he was talking about the movie, at some point he turned to me and he said, "You weren't invited to this, were you?" And which I thought, wow, that's like acknowledging that I am a living, breathing person. And so hard to come by sometimes. And I thought, that's really nice. So I said, no, we didn't get to see it. So in his telling of the, story that was connected to the stripes, which I still have never seen, he explained more as if to somebody who hadn't seen the movie. And I really, that gave him a lot of points, in my opinion. I thought, oh, so maybe I've been wrong about this guy. He isn't just a jerk and, professional. And
Wait, this is at the time you were thinking that? Like you had previously thought he was a jerk before you came
well,
to this interview?
you have to think about what he was putting out there as his public image. I mean, he
Mhm.
wasn't trying to make people believe that he was a sophisticated bon vivant. He was, trying to, what's the character he plays in the golfing movie? Yeah, I don't think he was.
Oh, and Caddyshack? Oh, well, that was obviously, yeah. Well, okay, so I
Yeah.
wouldn't have perceived him, but it's that way then. But it's interesting that you
So
thought
you're
that
going to
coming
pull us
into the
way
interview.
back because now, you have to realize that at this point, this, you know, um, what's the movie you did with Charlotte Johansson?
Scarlett Johansson was lost in translation. But see,
Yes,
I'm coming from it. I saw him in Meatballs in '79, and he was completely lovable and like a hero.
I never saw that either. Really, I don't. I have seen Bill Murray movies. I
Okay.
Okay. So anyway, let's just go that yes, he had now won some points with me. I didn't, look, I'd been doing this long enough that I didn't think he was like a jerk personally, um, because I didn't know him,
Hmm.
but yeah, I didn't think he was really trying to make a reputation for himself as a, you know,
Man of
sophisticated,
the people.
thoughtful, intelligent man.
Oh.
So, um, at this point, for this period of time, and it turns out to be pretty brief, um, I was impressed by that. And um, so what happens is because the writer and the publisher of Sweet Potato was so excited and had so many things to talk to about him, the time for me to do my pictures started to get squeezed up against his next appointment. There were
So
other,
you're so you don't set up and take pictures while he's being interviewed. It's a separate thing that happens after the interview. Hmm.
yeah. I mean, this was a point where I was really, I think it was toward the end of when I would go with writers. No, yeah, it's no good because then I have less control if he's actually talking to people. And when people are talking, their mouths are moving and yeah, it's not that great. So no, would do pictures afterwards. That was the plan. And he had this, appointment to be on the television show. And even between that, there was at least one other journalist coming. So things kind of had to be rushed, and I was starting to like pre-set up things in my mind about what I could do with them again. It's kind of a crowded suite, a lot of like frou-frou furniture and stuff. And the movie company had brought in this giant tray of food, and there was like a fake ice swan. So essentially, when you looked at it, it looked like an ice swan, but it wasn't made out of ice. It wasn't going to melt. Um, and looked like, like a champagne bucket, but didn't have champagne and it had water in it. But it looked very fancy and it was large. Uh, and, just for me as a photographer, it was just like a visual kind of tool. I don't know. I'm looking at that and looking about where I could move him to the, so I'm kind of working this out in my mind. And so the interview is over and I'm like setting up, I put on a lens and I'm starting to take pictures, and Bill Murray says to me, very seriously, he says, is that a wide angle lens? And I said, yes. It's funny because, or ironic, because I just mentioned the David Byrne afternoon that I spent, and those are the two times that somebody has said to me directly, is that a wide angle lens? But I will tell you that coming from David Byrne, it's very different than coming from Bill Murray. And so I started to get a little worried when I did not with David Byrne, but with Bill Murray, I was like, there was something about the question that made me think that was troubling him. I think I may have moved him over to the window, the table that was kind of near the tray of food and stuff. And I took a few pictures. I, really wasn't the greatest. And he was wearing like Bermuda shorts and kind of a ratty V-neck sweater. His hair was all askew. And, I thought, this is the Bill Murray look. And as time goes by, this friendly person who cared about whether I was at the screening is starting to kind of fade into the background. He's becoming quieter and quieter. And did he actually say it? I'm trying to remember if he actually said out loud at some point after he asked me about the wide angle lens. He said, "Oh, I see what you're doing." Okay, again, not a good sign, because I don't know how you could see what it is that I'm doing unless you're looking through my camera with me. And so again, we're running out of time. And so I did the pictures, and I finished up. I had enough, I thought, for the story and whatever kind of posterity type of pictures I might ever need. And I'm packing up because we have to get, all the stuff out of the room, and he is getting quieter and quieter. And at some point, when the writer and the publisher are still like, well, not so much to him, because he has really retreated. And
So it's not that the room isn't quiet, it's just he's being quiet. Like it's not like a
yes,
deadly silence in the whole room or anything.
no.
Okay.
And I don't know if Barry had noticed, because I will say that Barry, my future husband, roommate, he was a Bill Murray fan also. So I was probably the only one who had showed up without thinking, whoopee. So I don't know if I was the only one that noticed what was going on with Bill Murray, but he got up out of his chair, and the suite actually did include a separate small bedroom off to the side, where he left the room while we were still getting ready to go, and he went off into that bedroom. And the writer and the publisher are still yakking to the movie people, who probably want to yak back, because most coverages they can get, the better for them. I don't know if they saw Boston as a target market, but I probably. So
It's not a big college town.
it's not.
No, that I'm quoting Spinal Tap there. It's a joke, so never mind.
Is that okay? We can talk about that later. I really should watch that 5 or 6 more times. So we're leaving, and we all file past the bedroom, and Bill Murray does come to the doorway of the bedroom to say goodbye to us, but he's very cordial and not effusive or friendly. And I'm like, geez, I wonder what happened there. And we go out, and I was thinking this morning, it's kind of weird because at the time, Barry and I lived on Winter Street. And if you know that area of Boston, so it's like the Public Garden, the Boston Commons, that's an S, right? And no, is it Boston Common? The Boston Common, the Public Garden, and then yeah, so Winter Street runs right into the Boston Common.
Oh, right. It's kind of coming up from Downtown Crossing. Is that right?
Exactly. It's
Mhm.
another ironic Boston thing. I don't know if it was always like this, but Winter Street, it's because you got to remember we're in New England and it's Boston. Winter Street is a block long. It's very short. And
Mhm.
then after Winter Street, it turns into Summer, which goes
Mhm.
on forever. So, yeah, I always thought that was funny. Is that some kind of, you know, weather joke built into the city
The
plan?
town founders had quite the sense of humor.
Um, maybe their idea of winter and summer were different than ours. So, anyway, it was very close by, but it was really late at night. I really wish I could remember. The show might have been Boston at midnight. It started really late.
I
And
found something called I don't know if this would be the right one. I found something called Five All Night, Live All Night.
could have been
It was on
Channel
CBB,
5.
WCBB,
I don't
probably.
know.
Yeah, Channel 5.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, so they were the publisher, and I am now a little embarrassed that I don't remember his name. May come to me. But
Of
he was
Sweet Potato.
the Sweet Potato
The
publisher, yeah.
Mhm.
He might have been the editor and not the publisher. He was not the source of the money, I will say that. But
Mm.
he was a really nice guy and I liked him. And he was giving us a ride back to the studio on Winter Street, even though it was pretty close by, but it was too late to be walking with the equipment. Excuse me.
Mhm.
So, yeah, the emotion of this is making my nose run. So, anyway, we go downstairs and they had parked the car, or we had parked the car. So it's, the park plaza is on, I'm gonna say that's the north side of Arlington Street. And the south side of Arlington Street was the one that was on the public garden.
Mhm.
So the car was parked, at the sidewalk, and then the sidewalk's pretty narrow going around, or it was then, God knows what it is now. And then, there's foliage everywhere, because it's the public garden. So we walk over to the car and we're getting in the car, and as we're getting in the car, oh, I'm sorry, this is important because it goes back to the summer winter thing. This was happening. Did you get a month on that? No, because you didn't
Oh,
have,
of stripes coming out? No, but was this a warm weather time when this was
it was,
happening, or?
yes, it was warm weather, and why that is key is that the windows to Bill Murray's suite were completely open, and the windows ran along
Mhm.
the side of ran along the Arlington, his windows ran along the Arlington Street side, and they were completely open. So now we are downstairs and one level down. I think his room was on the second floor. It was, yeah, he wasn't on the first floor, which I guess would have been the lobby, but he wasn't too far up. And we're about to get in the car, and I hear a man yell at the top of his lungs, "No more fucking photographers." And I'm like, yeah. I'm telling
Wow.
you that I am with three people that I realize in my heart of heart could have fan deafness.
Mhm.
That it was possible that they hadn't heard that, even though it was very loud. And I kind of looked at them, and I looked at Barry and he said, "Oh, he's kidding. That's just his sense of humor." Okay. Um, so, I'm still a little like, it's weird. And we go home. And the next day, I feel like this is weird. This could be researched. I was going to New York and this was sometime around the thing at Bond, the time that the thing happened at Bonds with the Clash. And I was
Okay,
going,
I just looked it up. The movie was released in late June of 81, so I guess this would have been May or early June.
yeah, I don't know if those Bond shows, but okay, so I was going to New York and I was going to New York to shoot somebody. I had some important things that I had to do. And when we wake up in the morning, there's a phone call and it's from the editor of Sweet Potato Magazine. And he's like, "Well, what happened last night was that I realized he had forgotten his own personal camera bag that he had brought with him. And so he had to go back for it." Now, I don't know if he had done that on purpose,
Intentionally left it. Mm-hmm.
but he had
Oldest trick in the book.
gone, which strangely I have never thought of.
Mm-hmm.
So he went back and apparently got an earful that Bill Murray was very, very upset. And he said that I was trying to make him look bad, that I was trying to associate him with that tray of food, which he said was like, exorbitant and over the top and wouldn't have been, excuse me, anything that he had anything to do with. And that I was, going to try to give people the impression that he had ordered that fancy food. And
Mm-hmm.
that I don't know, there was some discussion about his weight. I don't know if they directly said, or if he directly said that I was trying to make him look fat. And even by associating him with that food, but he was very unhappy and they wanted my film. Now I have to tell you that at that point, yes, at that point, that was a no-no.
Yeah.
I am not or was not a student photographer, or I hand over my film to anybody, and not to mention the fact that, yes, this might have been post the Clash. I don't really know, because I remember saying, "Look, I got pictures on that film that aren't just him. I'm not handing that film over to anybody." And, the editor's very upset because he just wants to please them. I'm like, "Well, you're not going to do it on my back." So I agreed that when I came back and made a contact sheet that I would show them the contact sheet. So, which, by the way, is really another no-no in, journalism. You're not supposed to, give your subjects the choice of what pictures are going to get published. But I guess they were going to do that because he was so upset. And I went off to New York. I was only gone a couple of days. And when I returned, Barry came and met me at South Station when I got off the train, and he's waving the Boston Globe. There is like a half-page article in the Boston Globe from a Globe reporter who walked in the door right after we walked out. And this reporter witnessed Murray having a shit fit and yelling out, "No more fucking photographers." But something that I didn't know, that's in the article, is that Murray had picked up a dinner plate, and at the Ritz Carlton, they're not made out of paper. This was a heavy dinner plate. He picked up
Mm-hmm.
and frisbeed it out the window at us. Now, Barry said that in fact he did hear something land in the park right by the car.
Wow.
I know.
So that was in tandem apparently with him yelling, "No more fucking photographers." He threw the plate.
Yes, either in
Jeez.
tandem, right after.
Wow.
Yes, in connection to it, yeah. So, I mean, really, that's what I'm saying. It's good for a lot of people. I mean, it's really just very recently. So I would tell people this story and it'd get really weird responses from people. I mean, I wasn't,
Wanting to defend him, or
I don't, people wouldn't tell me. I could just tell it upset them I didn't feel that the sympathy was with me in the story. Uh, and, but anyway, at the time, I guess I was still, trying to, get along the best I could without, doing things like handing over my film. And I did, send a contact sheet over and, he's, obviously he had a shit fit. And that now that, some time had passed, he really didn't care anymore. I don't think he picked out any pictures. Maybe he didn't see on the contact sheet anything that supported his fantasies. There wasn't great stuff. Oh, by the way, sorry, I should add that the picture that accompanied the Globe article was a picture of him shoving a banana into his mouth. So this whole concept of my making him look stupid or associate him with the food to make him either look fat or dumb or whatever. Yeah. And there's this picture with him and the banana in his mouth.
but that might support his paranoia because they published a photo of him eating that could make him look
But he didn't demand that
gluttonous.
of the Boston
Well, he
Globe.
probably didn't have a chance to. It was a newspaper as opposed to a magazine that's doing a profile
Right?
that presumably is working with the publicist and so on. So,
Yeah, I
did they
would.
name you? Were you named in that article in the Globe?
So I'm stopping this to make a general apology for the Taking Tea with Monsters podcast. It is my personal belief that there should be much more in the line of visual aids in this podcast. And um, and in the case, and I realized this before these recordings today, but I couldn't do much about it. I have no idea where those negatives are, the Bill Murray negatives. And I do somewhere have a copy of that article. I do have a tear sheet from the article. I don't remember if it said my name. So, so we also heard back through the editor, now the movie company's saying, oh, well, Bill Murray was very sensitive because he had gained some weight during Where the Buffalo Roam. Was that the name of the movie?
Mm-hmm.
The Hunter Thompson
Mm-hmm.
one, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was very sensitive about his weight. I'm laughing because the key issue that nobody's saying is that, yes, and we're also dealing with Bill Murray's coke addiction, which makes him act irrationally.
Oh.
So that's just me. I'm not a psychologist or a doctor, but yeah, I'm thinking I have been around people who do cocaine, and yeah, I'm thinking that was part of it. And so yeah, I'm saying that I have the Globe thing. I don't even remember. Probably somewhere I also have the sweet potato story. But I think I started to say, Arthur, that even if I had taken a picture of Murray with a banana stuck in his mouth, even
Mm-hmm.
if I was angry at him for having said no more fucking photographers, because I don't think I really, well, first place, I didn't know about the plate until a couple of days afterwards. And I would not have published a picture that looked like that. That's not who I am as a photographer. I'm never trying to make people look bad. And if he knew that about me as a photographer, it might have been better for him. Yeah, that's not my intent. I was about to say, I would try to find other ways to get back at people, but I'm not a very vengeful person. So actually, no, probably not. But I am, but and some people may say this very podcast is vengeful. But, I've thought about trying to get in touch with him. Bill Murray has a son who has, I don't know if it's still up there, but he has a bar that's up kind of around the Rockefeller Center area. And I have thought about getting in touch with him because, yeah, this is like a lingering thing. And I know he's become a bigger and bigger star. Has he won more than one Academy Award? Did he win an Academy
I
Award?
don't think no, he's been nominated, but he hasn't won. Mhm.
But he is a much bigger star than he was. And
And also has, and also quite relevantly has cultivated quite the man of the people reputation the last 34 years by showing up at randomly at people's weddings and parties and being part of tending bars, and so has cultivated more of like a super friendly, approachable persona.
well, for whatever, I mean, I'm not really sure what my motivation is, but somehow this feels unresolved. And one of the things that I have thought more recently is this: had that plate made contact with any of the people in the party standing by the car, this would have been a very, very different story. That was a deadly thing that he did, really, really dangerous. That had hit any of us, particularly in the head, his career probably would have been different, and whoever got hit probably would have been different. That was really like a very serious thing done by a person who was really not thinking about his actions at all.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, the no more fucking photographers thing hurt my feelings, but the plate was out of control. Really. So for anybody who is offended by that, it is the truth. There is an article in the Globe. You know, I would love to talk to Maury about it, give him an opportunity to apologize. And, I don't really think I owe him an apology, but I could say, had I known, I would have tried to reassure you that I don't try to make people look stupid in my photographs. So,
It may be that he may not just have been aware that, of your professionality and the amount of time you'd been doing what you were doing. You were not just like some friend of the of Sweet Potato that they brought in to take photos. This was a job for you.
it wasn't a sweet potato tot. I was trying to think, what can you, sweet potato fry? This is actually before sweet potato fries. That's how long ago this is. Yeah, I'm not really thinking, I mean, I have photographed many, many people who had no reassurances about my, professionalism or the quality of my work, except, on the times that I was working with people that I'd worked with before. But lots of people, and I'm not, Boston's not the only town. They're going around and dealing with photographers in different cities and stuff. So I'm not even really thinking
No, and
much about that. It's more about him. And
yeah, I wasn't defending him. I was just trying to get in his mindset a little bit. Maybe that's,
yeah.
I mean, there's no excuse for throwing something and yelling like that. That's a tantrum, and he's not being professional on his side of it. So, by the way, I
Where
did
was
try to look up this.
Yeah.
I tried to look up this article in the Globe, and you'll be very entertained to know the story that I came up with is about Bill Murray shoving a photographer and pouring a drink on him inside a restaurant in Oak Bluffs on Martha's Vineyard. Now, can you guess who that photographer would have been?
Not Peter Simon.
Bingo.
Kidding me? Well, that
Yeah.
wasn't a smart move, was it?
And that, for anyone who hasn't watched the earlier podcast, that ties back to a story you've told me already. So
Yes, oh
I
no, we
thought that
can
was
say,
funny.
I mean, it does tie back to a story, but Peter Simon he's RIPing, I hope. But he was the younger brother of Carly Simon. He is, from the Simon and Schuster family. So if you're gonna mix it up with somebody and hope that it doesn't get in the paper, that's not the person to do
Yeah.
it. Thanks for that, Arthur.
I thought you'd enjoy that little tidbit.
Yeah, I do. Who got the drink poured on them? Peter?
Peter did.
Yeah. Well, I'm also happy to say that Peter is a person that, even if, because in a case like that, I might worry about how the photographer, had to deal with whatever happened to their equipment and situation like that. But, you know, a- as per my story with him, I don't worry about Peter's ability to have photographic equipment as he.
Oh yeah, he was probably somebody else's light and got beer thrown on it or something. Yeah.
Someone else's Leica.
Hmm.
That's a Cure song.
I don't think
Jumping
so.
someone else's Leica.
Hmm.
Hmm. Wow,
All
interesting. So
right.
you don't find the Globe story. You found this story of in Oak
But
Bluffs.
when I have a chance, I'm going to look up your Globe story and try to get
Yeah.
more detail from it. So, but that's an excellent story. I had no idea it was going to be Bill Murray. You had just
Yeah.
hinted that it
Well,
was
good.
someone famous.
Yeah. Oh, well, I gave you plenty of opportunities to guess, but you don't really think Boston Bill Murray,
Right.
but apparently
All right.
it's also
Yeah.
Cape Cod Bill Murray. So how have we done time-wise? May I ask that?
We're right. It's a good time to take a pause.
So
I
not the
think we'll,
time for me to ask you any questions.
no time for questions for me. I don't want to answer them. So we're done. No more fucking questions, Barbara.
Um, all right. Well, thank you all for coming. Um, yeah, I was supposed to write a goodbye speech, but
You
just,
also haven't mentioned the book.
yes, I was about to say, so part of the goodbye speech,
Okay.
I have a book. I have that's what it looks like, what Arthur's holding. Shameless Distortion, which you can buy at shamelessdistortion.com. You could also buy it on Amazon. There's some nice pictures in it. Yeah, I see it. And also an Instagram account that you should go and take a look at. And look
Which
for,
is also Shameless Distortion.
oh yes, the Instagram is Shameless Distortion. And the book is Shameless Distortion. The podcast is Taking Tea with Monsters, which has been explained, but will be probably explained again sometime. All right. Are we getting ready to smile and say goodbye?
We're
Bye.
just saying goodbye. Bye.
Bye.